Are we ready to go?
Almost. Well, I don't see, I don't know how you want to proceed. So we are live. Let me just get us recording. But there's no John. And so you only have 4 board members right now. And I think John is having trouble with his Wi-Fi. If you want to wait a couple of minutes, I can try to get a hold of him. Because he can always phone in and at least listen. I don't, you know, there's 3 items on the agenda, but I believe you're only going to be hearing or discussing 1. Okay, he's not here. I know he's had Wi-Fi issues before, so you let me know what you'd like me to do.
Well, why don't you make another attempt to get him on the line? We can go ahead and open the meeting, and hopefully by the time we get to the 20-5254, he can be logged in and recorded as being participating.
Okay, I just gotta make Don Smith a co-host so he can. All right, I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. Thank you all for your patience. This is the Town of Winchester Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. The time is now 7:09 p.m. We're meeting on the Zoom platform, and attending tonight are myself, Philip Allen, John Mazzacott is absent excused. We're waiting on John Pollock, Aubrey English, and Hal Wilkes are seated. And for the purposes of all hearings today, our alternate Paul Marino will be seated. The way that I think everybody probably knows our procedure by now, but just in case you don't, we read off an application. The applicants have an opportunity to present their application to the board. There is discussion with the board, if any. The hearing is opened to public comment. Once that period is over, we close the hearing, and the board can discuss the application among themselves, and then we vote. On ZBA, a vote of a majority of 4 votes is required to pass an application, as opposed to a simple majority. And in the case of tonight, if we are unable to seat Mr. Pollock, the applicants have the option of continuing their application if they don't want to take the chance of having to get 4 unanimous yes votes on the motion for their application. But we'll see if we need to take that up on a practical basis when we get there. Okay, first up on our agenda is ZBA application 20-5247, a special exception for the property located at 131 West Wakefield Boulevard, the applicants being Donald and Virginia Milette. This is a continuance of a hearing that was opened, I believe in July, and we have continued it as often as we can. The applicants are not present to speak to their application, so we will close this hearing and move on, taking no action. Our next application is zoning.
Philip,
Yes.
you got to make a motion to close the public hearing, right?
I'm sorry. Yes, I do. I was not thinking. So I make a motion to close the public hearing on application ZBA 20-5247. Having made the motion, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you all very much. Okay, zoning, pardon?
Well, now do you want to make the motion to, you got to make the motion to approve it and then have it denied,
Okay,
the application, just like a regular application.
all right.
This
Do we
way
have
it closes up the whole thing.
I understand. Do we have a motion available?
I don't know, Pam should be sharing it. She's
Yeah,
sharing
one
it in a
second.
minute.
Thank you. This is actually the first time on this board that I've experienced someone running out the clock on their continuances. So I was a little confused, little at sea as to how to proceed with it.
For the purpose of the motion, do we not just have to read the information that's on the application?
You don't have to.
I mean,
You
can we
should
make
have,
a
you just
motion
have to do a motion to, you almost want to make all the motions in the affirmative and then have it denied.
so if we make a
That's fine.
motion to approve ZBA 20-5247 for a take down existing 5-foot fence and replace with a 5-foot high fence with a 10-foot opening. Does that satisfy the motion that we need to make?
Yeah, you could do that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion? All opposed? Motion denied. Application denied, excuse me. And I
All right,
guess,
so now you just need the reason for denial. Basically, no applicant showed up at the meeting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was, without them present, we couldn't act on it. Okay, sorry for the confusion with all of that. Moving on, Zoning Board of Appeals, application 20-5253, a special exception for the property located at 134 Shore Drive, owned by Lynette and Robert McCarthy. My understanding is that the applicants wish to continue this application to next month. So I move that we continue this application pending our October meeting.
Second.
Okay. I think that's, yes.
Okay, so a motion is made and seconded to continue ZBA application 20-5253. All in favor? Thank you. We'll note that John Pollock has come into the meeting and will be participating in our next application. Okay, moving on, Zoning Board of Appeals 20-5254 for a variance for the property located at 15 Hinsdale Avenue, the applicant being Winchester Public Schools, for a variance from required 35-foot buffer between non-residential and residential use. So I believe, is it Mr. Smith who's going to be leading the application?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Donald Smith Jr., professional engineer with an office at 56 Greenwood Circle in Seymour. Here tonight representing Winchester Public Schools and the town of Winchester in the matter of a requested buffer variance for the renovation of Hinsdale School. I believe with us tonight is Superintendent Melanie Brady Shanley. I believe the mayor is also present, as well as the town manager. I'm not sure if anyone, also our vice chairman, Dave Carter, vice chairman of the building committee, is here tonight, as is our project architect, Paul Jorgensen.
Don, just to add to that list, we also have our Board of Ed Chair. We have multiple members of the building committee on tonight with us also.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm not familiar with all of the names. So,
Welcome, everyone.
thank you. If you wish, or if I may, I would like to share my screen and show an overall site plan of the school.
Please do.
And the area that is being discussed.
Please do, sir.
Okay, so this is our colored rendering of the Hinsdale School site. Over here in the left-hand edge of the site, or left-hand edge of my screen, is Spencer Street. Along the bottom is Hinsdale Ave. And then over along the right-hand edge, obviously, is Williams Ave. The project, I believe that you're aware, but the project entails demolition of a portion of the 1950 school that was constructed over the watercourse and has the watercourse basically running through a concrete chamber under the school. The proposal is to knock down that two-story portion of the addition. The existing, or the remainder of the 1950s building, or the original building, plus the expansion through 1989, that is all shown right here in the lighter tan. And generally that property or that building is approximately 10 feet off of the easterly property line in this area. The building itself is about 20 feet off of this property line. The current proposal is to construct a one-story addition to the east end of the existing building to replace the classroom area that was lost by demolishing the existing building and daylighting the brook that's underneath. All right, this current area right now, currently this area has a parking lot in it, and it currently extends up to within 5 feet of the easterly property line, as well as within 5 feet of this southerly property line. Just to kind of note, this southerly property line, this property owner here, Mr. Savage, Mr. and Mrs. Savage, they have a barn along the back of their property right on the line that encompasses about 50 feet or blocks about 50 feet of that line. So let me, and then obviously we have the through driveway that comes from Spencer Street and exits onto Williams Avenue. Generally the buses come in from Spencer Street. They drop off the children here at the main entrance. And then they exit out to Williams Ave. Parents wishing to drop off their students will come in from Williams Ave, come down, come through the parking lot area, and then line up along this curb here and discharge their passengers along this curb to use this entrance to get in the school. Again, this is going to be the proposed addition. The existing parking lot to the north of the driveway stays. The existing playground area at the north of the driveway is being changed to parking lot, and the paved play area north of the playground or north of the drive is being converted to a parking area. There are two new play school or playscapes, one for pre-K, kindergarten and pre-K in this area, and then one for the older grades up in the field area. So this property is, severely constrained, basically by its, kind of unique shape with the jogs as such. The Gilbert Home Brook running through the property is certainly an issue that we need to deal with. And, you know, one of the underlying reasons for this project was to address the moisture issues by having the brook under the existing building. So we have demolished that as a school building and daylighted that brook. That brook there is about 13 feet below the adjoining grade, so it's going to be down in a little bit of a ravine, but certainly it's a topographical feature that makes development of this site very difficult. The through driveway as well, that essentially bisects the parcel into two, you know, creates further difficulties. Not really enough of room to accommodate the proposed addition without drastic revisions to the whole site circulation, and not even sure that it would work. But just to zoom in a little bit further here. Okay, so all right, so the existing school building along that south property line is just under 30 feet to the property line at its closest dimension. The proposed building addition here would be approximately 31 feet at its closest point. And again, that's adjoining that barn that's on the neighbor's property here. And then further to the east, we're just under 20 feet off of that property line at the south end, and a little over 20 feet off of that property line at the north end. The existing school building is or proposed addition is going to be a single-story building. There is no site lighting that is proposed on either of these two faces, so it would no issue with light pollution over into the joiners. Also, there will be a maintenance gate between the building and the property line towards the north end of the addition, so that the area that is behind the school is really off limit to the children. And the reason it's needed is basically to provide access around the school. There's a catch basin over in this wetland area here to the left. There's a catch basin over here. There's a catch basin in this area. So we would need to provide access, you know, around the school for maintenance. There's some grass that would need to be cut. So we really cannot reduce this 19 foot by adding any landscaping there. But you know, it will be a grass surface, and all of the vegetation that's currently growing through that fence will be removed from the school side. You know, it should be noted that there is an existing chain link fence both along this east property line as well as our south property line. You know, this fence over in here is off of the property. Here there's a barn. The barn, again, you can see that barn that's right there. So this fence is off of the property, and this fence all the way to the east, that fence is not the school's either. So, you know, we believe that the proposed conditions are an improvement over the existing. You know, right now, as I said, there's a parking area here with a double row of parking in the center, so that cars would come in and either park or they would loop around and go back out. So, you know, I think under the current condition, all three of these parcels are impacted, you know, through headlights and the proximity of that parking area to the property line. By now eliminating the parking area, moving the building or the use further back, you know, we believe that we're making the situation better, although we don't have full compliance with the regulations. So I really believe that, you know, the topography of the property, the shape of the property, the fact that we're on frontage on 3 streets and having the driveway bisecting the property, and the Gilbert Home Brook are all challenges that we have try to overcome in the development or redevelopment of this school. So the request is, I guess a requirement is a 35-foot landscape buffer. And we have asked for that landscape buffer requirement to be reduced to 0 for the use, because we are a non-residential use against the residential area. But certainly, you know, that non-residential use along those two property lines is much less intense than it has been for the past 30 years. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Don, can you speak about real quick before you move on to questions about the improvement to the buffer zone and then also the addition of the privacy fence on this area to support the residential homeowners, please?
All right, the the parking area will be removed and replaced with a grass surface between the building and the property line. So we will be changing that to a grass, but without any shrubs or landscaping, again, in order to bring those maintenance vehicles around through. And then, you know, we did have some discussion, and if it's appropriate, we would be obviously willing to accept the condition or propose a 6-foot high privacy fence along the easterly property line, you know, to facilitate or help shield that view. Last week, I did have a call from Mr. Savage at this property here. He had asked, he had obviously gotten the abutters letter, and he called to inquire what was happening and how it would affect his property. I explained the distance, the location of the building versus the parking lot that was currently there. And he indicated that he had no objection to the proposed project. I asked him if I could repeat that, and he said he had no reason, you know, that I could not repeat that. I did provide Pam with a record of my telephone conversation with Mr. Savage with a date and time, his phone number, so that if you wanted to, you could follow up with him. But I did speak with him, and he had no objection to the variance, obviously, along his property. And again, there's an existing barn here, so he would not benefit very much from a privacy fence, but we could certainly add some additional fencing in here or along this line if the board felt that was prudent.
Mr. Smith, can you tell us where the asphalt ends right now? So you pointed out the new grass area, but where does the asphalt in that area actually end?
Okay. So this is the catch basin here. Basically, that asphalt along this line extends right along this fence. It's approximately 5 feet off of this property line and goes all the way out into this area. There's a turnaround area over here, but that asphalt extends all the way along that fence to within 5 feet. And then along this easterly property line, you know, from up in this garage area, the area up in the original garage, this whole line, the edge of that parking lot is only 5 feet off of the property line. So what I'm showing here is a 10-foot building setback. So half of that is where that existing paved parking lot exists on this side.
Thank you.
And do we have receipt of all of the abutter notifications, by the way?
Yeah, we have. Of mail, yep.
Yes, she broke up a little bit, but I did provide Pam with copies of all of the certificates of mailing for the 30 abutters.
Thank you.
They're getting quite familiar to getting mail from me.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Smith? Would anyone else like to make any comments about the proposal from your team, Ms. Brady Shanley?
Thank you tonight for reviewing this proposal. I do want to highlight the importance that, this is definitely a vast improvement upon our current situation. The buffer zones are currently, around 5 feet on both the east and the south sides of that property, with the addition of the privacy fence for neighbors and the buffer zones increasing to, I think it's, 20 and 29 feet, roughly. A vast improvement upon the current situation for residential property owners in the area. So we look forward to your support of increasing that zone. Thank you.
Mr. Fennecker? You need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to reiterate that this does represent a substantial improvement to the site, that the site does have a history of flooding and moisture issues, and that if you, in your capacity, can look at the overall improvement to the neighborhood, I think that any shortcomings in terms of the setback are certainly overwhelmed by the improvement that takes place in the whole property and what it means to the town educationally. So I hope that you can look at the big picture and give us your support. Thank you.
Mr. Sandonato, please.
Thank you, Phil. Very much like each of you on the board, I was asked to join this committee as a citizen. I moved to this area 3 years ago. I wanted to at least approach this from a different aspect. I've been on this committee for over 2 years. I think the committee, the citizens that are on this committee have worked hand in hand with Silver Petroselli. As you've heard, all the things we've tried to address with the limitations that the property brings forth. But I'm going to bring it from a different approach. In my corporate world, in my corporate life, I was responsible for a large corporation's relocation program, human resources across the globe. I've moved 5 times myself, and I will tell you there is no bigger factor in anyone's decision to join a town, to join a community, than its school system. And I got on this committee because I believe this town has tremendous potential. But if we're going to be able to grow this economically, it starts with schools. We know we're coming up and we're asking for variances, but I think it's absolutely critical for the future growth of Winsted that we make this happen. We are being seen very favorably from the state with this project. It's imperative we keep on the top of their list, which we are right now, and we're trying to meet with them again in October. And we really need the committee's support here. So I just wanted to approach it from that perspective. Thank you.
Yes, if I could, for the record, Dave Carter, 148 Mountain Road, Vice Chairman. I approached this on Sunday from 2 directions. Number 1, the regulations that ZBA has to work under. And number 2, I went back as far as 1991 to see the input that the town did with their complaints or what have you, and their concerns. And I saw how we've addressed them as the building committee. And I think honestly, with the demolition that we're doing, trying to mediate that water course, most importantly, and the new HVAC system, all being encompassed into something that's barely encroaching. The end result, what we're getting for that is we're eliminating, I'd say 99% of the concerns that the voters who were actually accountable to have had during the past. And honestly, with all the work that's gone through this, I honestly believe we're going to deliver one outstanding project to the people of Winston. So that's it.
Comment?
Mr. Geiger?
Well, I've been in the town for 5 years. I've lived in the region for 40 years. I, like Mr. Sandonato, have moved several times and relocated a lot of facilities. And I have found that the educational system is probably the #1 priority in recruiting people to a town and making it vibrant and economically viable. We've come a long way in the past several years with the help of a lot of people. And as you all know, I've worked a lot on trying to improve not just the appearance of the town, but the viability and functionality of the town. Our school has come a long way. The administration has been relocated to Town Hall. I've worked closely with Melanie and the school administration to continue to support the educational development. And I know education is far more than bricks and mortar, but bricks and mortar are extremely important when our facilities haven't been improved upon for many, many years. And all I can tell you is that I spend a lot of time thinking about economic development and viability for the community in the region, not just our town. I consider the development of our town a regional aspect of improvement for all of us. And I would say that our school system is probably the #1 priority in future advancement for our community. I've spent a lot of time on this project. I've spent a lot of time on those properties. I've spent a lot of time on the eastern zone, the western zone, walking through the concrete tunnel, picking up the trash around the facility and maintaining it, because I always thought it was a viable property for a redevelopment. So I think a lot of work has been put into this by a lot of people, very professional, civic-minded people. And I'm thoroughly impressed with where we are at this stage. And all I can tell you is, as a town manager, this is a huge improvement and opportunity for our town. So I just tell you, I just want to say that I support this project wholeheartedly, and I realize this is requesting a variance, and I view this variance, quite frankly, as an improvement with all of the entire neighborhood. That's it.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make any comment? Yes, Mr. Fenniger? You need to unmute again.
It seems to me that if anyone were to have an objection to this, it would be the abutters. And since Mr. Smith has said that the most impacted abutter is okay with it, that should give you all the wherewithal you need to approve this. And I hope you do. So thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond to one of the comments that was raised, or question on the flooding aspect, or the benefit, the reduction in the flooding of the property as a result of the project.
Please.
Let me just go back and share my screen again, please.
Go ahead.
By demolishing the existing building and daylighting the water course, okay, what we have done prior to this project, under the 100-year flood conditions, floodwaters would be approximately 1.9 feet above the existing school's floor. Okay, and the only way that floodwater could escape was to fill up the back of the property, come through this parking lot at the east end of the building, through these backyards of these homeowners on Hinsdale Avenue, and then basically fill up and overflow at this corner here, and then run down Hinsdale Ave. So by eliminating the building, we have lowered the foundation wall, let's say, at the Hinsdale Avenue end. And now, under the 100-year flood event, That flood elevation is approximately 11 inches below the finished floor elevation. All of that flow basically is contained over in this corner, and that, you know, this still does come up and overflow into the driveway, but we've adjusted the grading of that driveway so that it goes right back down the bank into that water course, and then down and over and out and down Hinsdale Avenue. So I would expect all of these property owners to benefit from that. You know, we're talking over 2 feet of water in that parking lot here that would been affecting these properties. So, you know, by eliminating that building, we have drastically improved the flooding situation in the backyards here. We have not completely eliminated it, but we have drastically improved it under the 100-year conditions, in that the water does not have to come through here in order to get out. So again, further information of why we wanted to get rid of that portion of the building here and better control the floodwaters to protect the whole building as well as the neighbors. So we believe that's, you know, obviously a very big benefit of the project as well.
Thank you. Any further comments from anyone attending? I guess you have the last word, Mr. Smith, but you may have already wrapped yourself up. I'm not sure.
I think we're good, Mr. Chairman. You know, we believe this is a benefit to the property, to the neighborhood. We believe the property is highly constrained in topographic conditions, wetlands and water courses. And certainly we have conditions on our site that would not be typical on most other building lots in town.
Very good. Thank you. With that, excuse me, pardon me?
Mr. Chairman, before we close the public hearing, is there any correspondence, Pam, from any of the other abutters other than this one phone call that we
No.
got?
I can,
I'm struggling with the town hall Wi-Fi again.
We haven't received anything.
Mr. Douglas?
yeah, I can talk as a property owner that I'm for this project. I've been on the corner of that little Hinsdale Avenue Drive since 1985. And I see this as
I wish there was someone here that could help us. Mark, you want to say something?
with that. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I've been here since 85 on the corner, and I'm all for the schools. And I just think I was kind of on the committee through the town when we kind of closed Hinsdale School. So I've been in and out of that school, in and out of that vault area where the river runs through and backs up. I've been here for one of the actual floods we had a little back maybe 10 years ago. So I just think everything you're doing is really an improvement to our neighborhood. You're putting in a nice playscape for the neighborhood. I'm starting to see some younger families move in this area. As an abutting property owner, whatever, I'm all for this project. Like I said, since 85, I was here through that construction in 89 or whatever they did. So I just think it's a great thing you guys are doing. A lot of thought went into it. And like I said, I'm talking as a property owner here. I think it's a great project, and I really think you should accept that variance because for all it's going to do, I just think it's a good improvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other last minute questions or rather comments from anyone in attendance? Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing on Zoning Board of Appeals application 205254 for a variance at 15 Hinsdale Avenue. Our motion. Oh. Okay, here we go. I will read the motion. The motion to approve variance application number 20-5254 for a variance from section 3.E.4.I to allow not having a 35-foot buffer between a commercial use and a residential use for the property located at 15 Hinsdale Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. Motion, any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify.
Aye.
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 I,
No opposition, no abstention. You have your variance.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving on to the stuff that won't interest anybody else. To old business, there is none on the agenda. Is there anything we need to address? Apparently not. For minutes of August 25th, 2020, does anyone have any corrections of fact? If not, then we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. I will second. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any correspondence?
No.
Any other business? Any discussion with our ZBA, our zoning enforcement officer? Then we can hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second it.
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Thank
all
you,
very
everyone.
much. Good
Thank you
night.
very much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
That's it.